How do you structure your first meeting with clients? For example, do you set up a day to meet in person and tour their kitchen before their first cook day, or do you wait until the first cook day to meet in person? This question was submitted by Ashley. So, yes, you set up a day to meet in person. You always want to do that before the first cook day for a lot of different reasons. Like you need to see even how big their kitchen is, what the layout of the kitchen is. You need to look and make sure that you can turn on the oven and the stove, that it's not some like fancy weird brand you've never seen before or something, and that they work and things like that. Just to even, to make sure that it's functioning and that you're comfortable. You shouldn't walk in on your first cook day when you're probably going to be a little nervous anyway, right? To a kitchen that you've never seen before. So, the best time to do that generally is sometimes now a client may go from asking about your services to starting service totally over email or over the phone or even a video call or whatever. But so then you would set up a specific day to go by and stuff. But generally speaking, a good thing to do is after they, get some information and they're really considering it, is to go to their house and sit down and meet with them in person to finalize the final details and everything. You can send the food questionnaire by email for them to fill out and send back to you, or that is a good time to give them the food questionnaire that they can fill out and send back to you and stuff. So definitely do that before your first cook day. All right, question next is from Lisa. I remember you mentioning certification. Would you please send a link? I put my info in here because I couldn't write in the box above. Certification. I'm not sure if you're talking about food safety certification or if you're talking about the certificate for completion inside the Personal Chef Business Academy. So if you're looking for food safety certification, that is specific to the area you're in, because of course that's managed by the health department, which is probably, even though your health department's more local, it's probably state. So just Google your state and food safety certification. You do not need food manager, you only need food handler. So, and that is online. And then if you're looking for the certificate inside the academy, after you go through all the modules, you'll see there's a final module that says congratulations. When you go under there, it has your next steps and it has the form you can fill out to get your certificate of completion mailed to you. Great question. Either one, that was very useful information. Next from Shri, what is the best way to market online? Should you do videos of cooking demonstrations or start a blog or just do food pictures? Okay, that's a great question. And don't forget, there's a whole module on this inside the marketing section of the online training. But in general, just for an overview, if you don't have a website, or even if you do, something like a Facebook page or Instagram can be a great place for you to send people that you have talked to or who are interested in about your services, for them to, yes, see some of your food pictures and pictures of you cooking and other things like that, so they can kind of get to know you a little bit, right? And get more comfortable when they think about you cooking for them. However, especially Instagram, just posting on Instagram is not going to get you any clients because it's not a local platform, right? When you post on Instagram, it just sends it out into the algorithm and anybody on the planet could see it who we assume is interested in food. However, Instagram at that moment is figuring out they want to send stuff to people. So when we're talking about a Facebook page, it's the same thing. Nobody's going to go to your Facebook page or find you there without you sending them there. So that is not a good, even on top of the fact that it's passive marketing. If you remember, we talk about passive marketing and active marketing, where passive is a website or putting a post up on social media or passing out flyers or business cards. That stuff just sits there and it's passive, and it can be fine, but active ways of marketing, things that actually get you talking to people, having conversations, that kind of thing is much, much, much more valuable. And it can be scary. We cannot want to do it. And that's why people like to do things like pass out flyers and put business cards at a business, right? And think that's going to get us calls. But everybody does that. So if Instagram isn't going to directly get you clients and a Facebook page isn't, what are the best ways of marketing online? A way you can market online that is active is you do have a Facebook page and you post on that, and that's fine. And you can form relationships with other local businesses and try to, trade partnership where you're highlighting each other's businesses and keeping it within a local thing. Telling local people to like your Facebook page, that again keeps it local, and that'll get people seeing your posts. But the most valuable thing you can do is join local Facebook groups. And this can depend on your area or your specialty. Maybe there are local neighborhood groups, local moms groups, local business groups, local, whatever your specialty is, people who are gluten-free or vegan or whatever, and who are sharing recipes in restaurants and things like that. That can be a great place. And what you want to do is, of course, number one is follow the rules of that group. And some of those groups don't let you post business postings per se, but you can do things like post a recipe and say, hey, I wanted to share this. If you're struggling with what to have for dinner this week, this is a favorite of my clients and you'll love it too. If you have any questions about it, I'm happy to answer you, blah, blah, blah. And so that gets people interested in you, and then they can ask you questions in the comments, which is fine, or even click through to your Facebook page and see about your business. And of course, you make sure that your Facebook page is set up with all the business stuffs. There's a lesson exactly how to do that in the training too. But being able to have conversations with people in those groups is what gets you that local, talking to local people, people talking to people, people referring you, getting people familiar with your services and all that stuff. So being active in those groups is one of the best ways online that you can market your business, right? Going to the next question. Alicia wants to know, is it absolutely necessary to have a formal business plan since I'm not looking for investors? Great question. It's not the formal business plan. Let's make sure we're talking about the same thing, in the sense of you need a 30-page business plan that could get investors, that you could take to a bank for financing or something. There's a lot of, in that style of business plans, that we don't need, right? Being a business of one, not having overhead, not having a business lease, not having a commercial kitchen, not having inventory, not having employees. There's just tons of stuff in there that we don't even need, right? But, there is, inside the training, the lesson on a business plan for making a very simple one-page business plan, or maybe tops 2 or 3 pages. And yes, it is important to do. And why it is because it's easy when you either put your head down and are working on one very specific thing in your business, or when you're not working on your business for a hot minute, to lose track of your direction, your overarching plan of where you want to go, what you want your business to be, and all that. We can get kind of caught up in, I want to get paid to cook. I want to have a business. I want to have some clients. And it is really hard to get where you want to be with that kind of vague thing. So what just a short business plan does is it allows you to build your business backwards. You've heard me say that before, right? What that means is you decide first how much you want to work, when you want to work, what services you want to do, and what your pricing is to get you to how much money you want to make, right? Because then you know, oh, well, I don't want to work nights, weekends, and holidays, so I'm not going to do catering. And some people say, I want to get to six figures, so I'm going to need to incorporate some catering in to get me where I want to be. Or it could just be in between of, yeah, I'll do catering every once in a while, but that's important to know. You don't want to spend a bunch of your time worrying about catering or coming up with that type of menus or doing any work on that or even mentioning it on your website if that is not a service that you don't want to have. So it's important to stay focused on what you do want, those three things, right? So in your business plan, again, that's where you put what you want and then the steps that you're going to do to get you there. I want to make $100,000 a year in my personal chef business. To do that, I am going to offer personal chef services, also known as meal prep services, and small catering. My specialty for that is for the meal prep services is going to be families with kids who are super busy with all the kids' activities. The moms are burnout. They don't want to make dinner. They don't have time. So see, you talk about your client too. That helps you keep your marketing, which is a separate plan, dialed in. And so you know exactly what you're doing. You know exactly what food you're cooking, and you put your pricing in there too. So you don't waffle and go back around on your pricing, right? Then for the catering section, because you remember, the more services you have, each one is like its own business. Each one has its own marketing. Each one has its own type of client. Each one has its own how much it works, what your pricing is, all that kind of stuff, how often you want to do it, how many clients you need or jobs. So again, so your meal prep services, how many, that's during the week, during the day, how many clients do you want? How much are you going to charge to get to that six figures? How much catering are you going to need to do? How many jobs are you going to consistently need to have booked that profit what amount to get you to that six figures, right? And then you work out, okay, if it has to be this much profit, and this is my cooking style and what I want to do, whether it's dinner parties or buffets or whatever, like working that out, then you know exactly the clients you need, exactly how many, exactly when you're going to be working, exactly how much you're going to make, exactly the food that you're going to do. You have all that stuff. So then when it's time to do your marketing plan, you know exactly what marketing you need to do, who your client is, where you need to go, and you can build that plan so you know exactly what to do to get you where you want to be, right? Because again, it can be really distracting and just leave you unfocused and everything if you don't have those details dialed in. The flip side of that is when you do, it's just really easy to stay focused and always know what to do next. And that'll get you where you want to be so much faster, Alicia. So yes, too long didn't read, too long didn't listen. Yes, you have to have a business plan, but it does not need to be a 30-page, ginormous, what is it? The SB, small business, the thing at the chamber that'll help you, the SBA, Small Business Association, or whatever it is, which is a lot of times what they're used to working on, those giant, huge plans. Doesn't need to be one of that. All right.